Hello computer gamers, this is iAndrew, and today we got episode 18 of From Dota to League. So, who are we discussing this time? Nidalee, Rengar, and Bard, or as I like to call him, Arbiter. So, let's go with the least liked first, Rengar. This champion. He's such a button masher, but you gotta be careful. Like, you button mash the wrong way, you're gonna be a noob and fail. So, his first ability, if you supercharge it, which means you spend 5 points on it, you get attack speed, which is great, and it also gives some bonus attack damage. Well, that's nice. And it's like just temporary, right? And I guess there's a little bit of extra damage to that next basic attack. So if it's not the ferocious version, then you are just dealing bonus damage, and that's about it. Of course, the damage itself scales with attack damage. That's nice, and it is physical damage type. Next ability he can learn is a heal, basically. Or wait a minute, is it? Yeah. That's if you spend the 5 points on it, then it will heal. Otherwise, it won't. So it does AOE magic damage, and the damage scales on your ability power, and it also gives you armor and magic resist. So if you have it at the level 5, then it gives you 30 armor and magic resist. For each champion and large monster you're hitting with it, it's going to give you another 15. So that's pretty good. If there's just 2 enemy champions, and all of a sudden you got an extra 60 armor and magic resist. So that's pretty nice. I think I'm going to start building this guy tankier because I've been failing every game with him. And it's because I've been building like ability power or attack damage. Usually attack damage. And I've just been failing. The heal does not scale with level, unfortunately. So I guess the heal does not scale with ability power, is what I meant to say. So it seems like building lots of health, maybe some more armor and magic resist items is good on him, rather than necessarily ability power and AD items. Anyway, there's not much else to say about it. Moving on. His third ability is a slow, so he throws it pretty good distance, but of course you might end up hitting minions. They might block you, so be careful with that. It does a slow, and the slow is pretty significant. The charged up effect will root instead of slow, which is nice, and it also does extra damage. Now keep in mind that once you've gotten your 5 ferocity points to spend on one of your abilities, you can use any of your abilities. That is to say, there's like a yellow version available of each of them, and even if the blue version is on cooldown, you can still cast the yellow one. And I could be wrong, but I think the yellow ones don't actually have any cooldowns. So you can just keep casting it if you manage to build up your ferocity points that high, which you generally wouldn't anyway. But just putting that out there. Now his ultimate is nice, I suppose, for escaping, but not much of anything else, to be honest. It is actually good for chasing, but the problem is if you use it for the chasing, kill people, then you won't have anything to escape with. So, of course, you might be able to use your third ability, but that's only going to hit 1 unit anyway, so that's probably not going to be enough. Anyway, it gives him a lot of movement speed, it makes him invisible. Strangely enough, it's like the only invisible ability in the game I could think of that actually warns your opponents. Like, it gives them an exclamation point above their head, so they know that you're nearby. So that's kind of silly, but whatever. So what is his basic ability? This allows him to it's basically his jump. So if he's in the brush, he can jump out at people, and that's about all that does. So he does a lot of damage. You know, both of these abilities skilled his attack damage. His ultimate doesn't really do anything other than make him go invisible and give him some bonus movement speed and doing the leaping thing without the need for brush. Oh, and also, once he's no longer invisible, it will quickly generate his ferocity points. He'll get like 1 ferocity point per second for 5 seconds. So that's pretty cool. And then honestly, I wonder why they don't tweak him, because he doesn't seem all that strong. Like I say, a lot of champions like Nidalee, Shaco, Kha'Zix, they'll have much better disengage than Rengar does. All he has is his ultimate, which has a really long cooldown. So yeah, I don't really like him. But should probably play maybe 2 or 3 more games and try to build him tankier and see what happens, see if I can win with him. Moving on. Okay, so I've actually managed to win with Nidalee today. That was nice. I've actually played her quite a bit in the past. I think probably Rengar as well, and maybe they were both free to play the same week all the time. Who knows? Anyway, she's got like 9 abilities or something like that. It's pretty ridiculous. So she starts out with her ultimate at level 1. It's like a free ability, kind of like Karma and her ultimate. So you don't have to worry about learning that until you get to level 6. And you probably want to put some points to do it. So when you level it up, it actually does like minor buffs to, like, I want to say all of her abilities, although I'm not sure if it's all of them. But at any rate, as you level it up, it does strengthen some of her abilities and make them do like more damage or whatever. So it's definitely worth leveling it up. I think at every level, though, it's still like you still have the 1.5 seconds cooldown for when you can morph again. Something like that. But you do have some abilities that could trigger that you can activate it again. I think it's just Javelin Toss and Bushwhack, but I could be wrong. Anyway, one thing that I was struggling with for her was trying to figure out, do I want to build attack damage or I want to build a ability power? And either way, I'm not sure which one's better. But so far, I did have quite a bit of success with ability power. But more importantly, I was also trying to figure out, do I need to build mana items on her or not? Because in her human form, all her abilities cost mana. In her cougar form, none of her abilities cost mana. Now, one interesting thing about her is that you can build up the stacks on your tier just by being in cougar form and using all those abilities that don't cost mana. So it's a really good way to build up your tier for your Manamune or your whatever that other item's called for AP. But the problem with building lots of mana on her is, even though it'll be great because then you'll be able to cast a lot of your spells, it won't necessarily ensure your survival. What I mean by that is that you can continually fight, but the heal that you have in human form is not enough to keep you alive. The opponent can still crush you. So I would be careful about the idea of building mana items on general. I would say it would be fine if you did have some healing on your team and they could heal you, like a Tarek, for example, maybe Soraka or something. Maybe even some shields, like with Lux and Janna or whatever. That might be fine. Maybe even the new champion Bard. But as it is, the mana is to keep you fighting, right? But what's the point of having it keep on fighting if you're just going to end up dying? So I think it's more important to build either your ability power or your attack damage, and then get your spell vamp or your lifesteal. Build up your attack stats basically in one form or another, and get that engage going. Now I figure attack damage seems to be a riskier build with her, and maybe even not all that good. because her ability power, both of these two abilities scale with it in her human form, and they allow her to kind of keep her distance from the opponents and kind of play a bit safer. The reason this is important is because your allies will tend to not help you when they probably should be helping you. So this could slow enemies down, and this of course can really help you to catch up to them and so on, which is great. Now this third ability increases your attack speed. So when I jungle with her, I learn this one first because it gives me attack speed and it heals me. When I morph, it will do the AoE magic damage cleave that scales on ability power. So there's that. Her pounce will it just makes her jump forward, and it's not really all that special. Oops, I accidentally clicked on the video to watch. So as you can see by the video, there's two different versions of her pounce. One is she just hops a short distance, and the other one she jumps a quite bigger distance. The second one is while there's a tracked target and you're jumping in their direction, basically. That's how that works. So I'm not sure how forgiving the degrees, the angle of degrees or whatever you call that is. Like, you obviously, I don't think you can jump like at a 90-degree angle or probably even 45-degree angle and still get the extra jump. So you should be careful, make sure you're facing the correct direction, and they probably have to be a certain distance away too. Who knows? You might have even just jumped straight on them, I'm not sure. But sometimes I think you can jump over them too with that, so be careful. Anyway, it does some damage. I think it probably scales with your attack damage, but I'm not sure. Either way, I don't think it does much damage. And then there's not much else to say about it. The trap is the most useful part of this slot ability because it allows you to mark a target, obviously, so you can jump to them farther away and stuff. What else happens to them when they're marked? It increases her movement speed, I believe, huh? Oh no, that's only through bushes, right? Ah, no, it does increase her regular movement speed too. Okay, so if she's got in a bush and she's running towards the target, then she gets like 60% movement speed. So that's nice. Also, I guess Pounce has an increased effect if, no, I think they're talking about the range. Okay, so Takedown, her first ability. The Javelin Toss is her human version of it, which is infamous. It makes a very distinct sound. It travels pretty good distance, and I think you can increase the damage, maybe, or maybe it used to be the case, if you jump into your cougar form and jump backwards, because that increases the distance between you and your target, but it's kind of cheesy. Anyway, if you are building a lot of ability power, then this will do a lot, because that's how it scales, and it's doing magic damage, of course. In the cougar form, it scales with both ability power and attack damage, so there's that, and I believe the scaling is higher for the attack damage. So that does give you some incentive to build attack damage on her. So I tend to get Hextech Gunblade on her because, you know, although it only gives 45 attack damage, it's pretty nice. Now, it is magic damage, keep in mind, and it's only on one target. But I would imagine if you did get a Ravenous Hydra, it would cleave. So that would be pretty nice. You could, one thing to keep in mind is this ability does more and more damage the less health the enemy has. So isn't that nice? I can imagine if somebody only had like 100 health left and you use Takedown on them. Of course, it adds it to your next attack is how it works. So it's magic damage. It's probably if you hit a bunch of units, all of them take the takedown damage from the target that you attacked. Or maybe they take their own individual takedown damage. For however much health they're missing, they take more damage. That's how that ability works. And I don't think it's percentage based either, so I think it's more effective against tanks in general. Unfortunately, that does mean that it doesn't scale amazingly well, but one neat thing about it is the cooldown is pretty low, so you can keep casting it over and over again. So she's able to do some consistent damage, actually. I believe that's how it works. I think I wasn't really sure how it worked before, but now I'm a bit more positive on it. And there's not much else to say about her. You know, she's got her 2 forms. That's literally all her ultimate does. It's just morph her back and forth. And that's everything else. I could take a look at the items and show you what I've been doing for her. But what worked for me. And then I still got to figure out how I'd want to build her for her attack damage, I guess. It shouldn't be too difficult, maybe. So this item gave me magic resist and reduced the magic resistive enemies nearby me. So that seemed pretty valuable, since it also gave me some ability power to make some of my magic damage abilities do more damage. This built up my ability power even more. I got this. I've been buying the gray weapon for jungling and having more success with it, because I've actually begun to realize that I've been having huge problems. Well, actually, this might help out my Rengar play as well, in killing the dragons, because what ends up happening is I try to smite the dragon when the enemy is all up in the dragon pit. I end up clicking on an enemy champion instead. So rather than building blue or red weapons, gray or purple ones are better, because then you can't smite enemy champions, you can only smite monsters. So I've been preferring the gray one because it accelerates my farm, and then since I already have the gray one, trying to slay as many large monsters as possible because of how the gray weapon, its smite bonus works, it just makes sense to follow up with a purple enchantment for that, which actually helps out Nidalee a lot, I should say. I don't know if it would help out Rengar all that much. I guess it kind of would, but yeah, it's a pretty good enchantment for a lot of champions. It helps them clear faster generally because they're attacking faster. So it's nice. It gives her something to do while she's waiting for her spells to cool down, so that's good. She can just keep attacking, so that's nice. And of course it increases her magic damage, which synergizes well with the Abyssal Scepter, so there's that. And then combine all that with the Hextech Gunblade, and then all this magic damage she's doing, especially like with the cleave from her 3rd ability, she's able to just heal up pretty decent speed, I should say. And then we have practically no cooldown reduction in her build, so I just threw in a Morellonomicon for 20% CDR, and it also gives her tons of mana. So this might be something to think about buying on her normally if I do think I have mana problems. But as it is, I found that it was effective to fight in both forms as much as I could and get the most effectiveness I could out of them as possible. And then if I got really low or running out of mana, I would just resort to using Cougar form most of the time, and until my mana pool regenerated enough for more comfortable, just kind of playing both of them as much as possible. So in other words, I would just spam my abilities until I started to run low or run out of mana, and then I would just kind of remain in my Cougar form the majority of the time. And I think that worked out a lot better than actually building mana items like Mana Mune or the AP version. And I'd recommend that you guys try that too if you're having difficulty mastering her. Just kind of try to stick to her Cougar form a bit more than in that case. And anyway, the cooldowns on her Cougar form are quite a bit better than her human form. Plus she's just able to jump around a lot, which is nice. Overall, they just seem like better abilities sometimes, but all in all, our human abilities are pretty important too, so. Pretty strong champion, honestly. It's just really hard to get used to her and figure out how to play with her. But I think knowing when to morph is pretty important. Like if your allies aren't around, you might want to try to plant some traps and throw some spears to keep the opponents, away from you. You don't. One problem I ran into when I was playing Rengar is I couldn't fight 1 versus 2s very well a lot of the time, and even if I got to the point where I could, like, the opponents would never even do that. They'd like 3 versus 1 me or 4 or 5 versus 1 me, and it was just really frustrating because I couldn't rely on my allies at all. I don't know if it was just, like, as people would say, bad luck or whatever, just getting rotten allies, or if it was like, I was literally just, way too aggressive or something. But I don't think that's the case. But either way, maybe it was a bit of a combination of both. I certainly was having a lot of trouble that game, or these games that I've been playing Rengar, where I just get completely outnumbered, like, pretty much all game long. Like, Rengar, he's got a lot of burst, alright? He can make some pretty amazing kills. Like, I made some really good plays in all those games, even though I kind of suck with him. But, like, where's the survival? It's really hard for him to get away in general. And that's why I guess where probably tankier builds would come in, and just giving him more health, so that way his second skill can do more for him by giving him that bonus magic resistant armor, I guess would go a long way. So yeah, I'll just have to analyze things and build a bit smarter and see how it goes. As for Nidalee, I don't think she has to worry about that so much. I think Nidalee, as long as you're finding a way to deal some damage, you can get some lifesteal and spell vamp out there, I think she'll be doing just fine. She's got way more escape abilities than Rengar does. She's got her trap, she's got her jump. That's pretty much all she needs, honestly. And then if she can hit someone with the spear, that could that's great, because it's a long range ability and it can discourage people from chasing her. So that's cool. Rengar doesn't have anything like that. He's totally short range, and he's pretty vulnerable, to be honest. So yeah, that's all that. Now the new champion Bard, or as I like to call him, Arbiter, he is not in the client yet, but I still want to talk about him anyway, because I feel like Riot has done a really great job at designing this champion, so I'm pretty excited for him. So, which champion that's currently in the game is he the most like? Maybe Kale? I'm not really sure. But you know who he reminds me of is... he reminds me of Pit Lord, or Abyssal Underlord from Dota, or Dota 2. He hasn't been released to Dota 2 yet, but he's got his ultimate lets him transport his whole team across the map. Now, Bard, or Arbiter, he is going to be... His teleport isn't quite that long ranged, unfortunately. Also, the enemies can use his teleportation device. So what is his teleportation device? It's basically a wormhole, a one-way wormhole, basically from one end of a wall to the other. Now this does not work on the map boundaries. That is to say, you can't be on the east side of the map, throw your ability at the wall, and then travel to the west side of the map instantly. You can't do it that way. That's not how it works. That would be awesome if it was. I would love that. But anyway, he is able to, throw it at normal walls and go through them. And there's actually this, I saw a video of somebody throwing it on the map boundaries. It's actually not, they're not straight 4 walls. They're more than 4 walls. So at this one point, he's like coming out of the base, and then the wall, like, it comes up like this at a 90-degree angle or something, like very short, but it does come up a little bit, and then it goes south again or something like that. Or actually, I think in this video it was actually north, and it was from the blue team side. But at any rate, he would use his ability on this wall here, on this little short wall, and he could go through to the other side. You just kind of angle it, you know, and not quite 0 degrees, you know, like 5 or 10 degrees or whatever. And that was, wait, did I see not 90? Isn't 0 to the right? Yeah, it is in Warcraft 3. I'm not sure if that's how they do angles in League of Legends or not. But anyways, so he was able to actually go from the inner base turret to like the outer turret. So he was able to go really far. Basically 2 turret lengths, I guess you could say. And that was like in the top lane, I guess. So that's pretty abusive. I'm not sure if they're going to fix that. I don't know if they're going to do some train changes or not. Maybe that's intentional. But even that wall aside, there's still some other walls which are pretty big, which you can still take advantage of. You don't necessarily have to do that funky little trick, the map boundaries. But I just wanted to put that out there, that is a possibility currently, or I saw somebody playing a video of it. But this was on the beta test thing, so there's definitely plenty of time for them to fix something like that if they decide that's what it needs. Anyway, that is pretty much all that ability does, I think. It might have some kind of a passive, but that's the active. It just does a one-way, and your allies and yourself and your even enemies can all go through there, but you're not going to be able to go back through the other way. And it lasts a pretty good long time, I should say, too, which I think the cooldown and the duration probably scale with level, but I'm not really sure. Maybe the duration doesn't scale. I'm not sure if there would be much value in that. But the cooldown almost undoubtedly is going to scale. And, you know, it's just too bad it doesn't do damage, but his other abilities are dealing some damage, although his ultimate doesn't. So what does his ultimate do? His ultimate is Stasis Field, which, you know, if the team moving them around thingy wasn't enough like an Arbiter, the Stasis Field is even more like one. So his ability, he just puts everything like in a Zhonya's effect, pretty much. Or like if you play Dota 2, it's like Shadow Demon's Banishment, or actually maybe a better comparison, Outworld Devourer's Banishment, Pugna's, any of those kinds where it just removes them from the map. But of course, you can't deal any damage to them. I'm not sure if all of those abilities are applicable for that, but you get the concept, right? They just kind of, you can't touch them, you can't with regular attacks and spells or anything like that. So there's a delay in, so you could put it on like the dragon, you could put it on like the enemy team. It's a pretty big area, so it's not just one unit, so it's huge. Like, I remember what a lot of Protoss players would do in StarCraft is they'd play, you know, with a bunch of scouts, carriers, and arbiters, you know, and a few observers mixed in. If they end up playing up against a bunch of Terrans, they'll just use Stasis Field on like half of the battlecruisers or something, and then they'll just take out the Terran army. You know, and then the battlecruisers are all by themselves. It's like they're surrounded, and the Protoss outnumber them by that point. It's pretty strong, honestly, and you just need a couple of arbiters to be able to do that. And Bard, you know, he's able to help his team basically divide and conquer. You know, why bother stasis fielding the entire enemy team if they're all clumped up together? You can totally aim it where only one or two of them, you know, don't get stasis fielded, and then the 5 of you just gang up on him. It would be a really effective use of his ultimate, honestly. So yeah, just be careful how you use it. You might not want to you're going to want to make sure that you can kill the guys that you leave out of the freezing or stasis. Like, for example, if you don't freeze Nidalee in her Cougar form, she's probably just going to jump away, right? If you guys try to jump on her. So that might not be the most effective target to leave out of the stasis. But, you know, somebody more like a Soraka, for example, might be fine, because she only gets the boost of movement speed when her allies are low health, and they're obviously fine right now because of the ultimate. And even then, she'd actually have to be running towards them instead of away from them. So there wouldn't be a whole lot that a Soraka would be able to do, I would imagine. You know, she could try silencing you guys, but maybe wouldn't be able to do a whole lot besides that. Of course, she might have her flash. And that's another thing, you know, just be careful you don't use it when somebody has their flash up that way, because and then just might just jump away and they might get away anyway. But you know, that's another thing. You could still use your transporting ability to help your team chase them. Even if they flash over a wall, you just walk right through the wall, keep chasing them. So there's that. So the most attractive parts of this champion already are his utility abilities. Like, then they don't even do any damage. So you gotta figure his other abilities are gonna do damage, right? Right. So well, actually, one of them doesn't. So what's his third ability that's not going to do damage, you might ask? Okay, it's actually heal. So imagine you have the Teemo Shroom, you put it on the ground, but instead of enemies stepping on it and it damaging them over time and slowing them, the enemy steps on it and the item, the mushroom dies, like, immediately. Well, you might think, well, that sucks. This guy sucks compared to Teemo. Teemo's awesome, right? Well, not exactly. The point of the ability isn't so the enemy step on it, although that is what happens if the enemy steps on it, is it just dies immediately and nothing happens to the enemy. Okay, that's normal, but and that's unfortunate. What you really want to, how you use this is you put it's actually a ball of light or a cylinder of light or something like that, and it kind of looks like a ward of some sort, but it's not a ward, and it's clearly not one, but I'm saying that's kind of the shape of it, I guess. Anyways, you put it on the ground, and it has like these lights, it glows, and it twirls around the cylinder, and it makes like a ready sound when it's glowed at its brightest, and at that point you can get the maximum benefit from stepping on it. So you or your allies can step on these little, man, you would even call that lamps, I guess? We'll just call them lamps. So they're Arbiter's lamps. You step on them, and they will, or you can call them wisps too, I guess. You step on them, and they will heal you. That's what they do. And I think they also give you a small burst of movement speed for a short time. I'm not sure, but I believe that healing scales with ability power, which is nice. So keep that in mind. And then, if not, then maybe it scales on health or something. Who knows? But whatever. So it's pretty helpful because you could plant a bunch of them on the ground, and somebody could almost die, and then step on them all and get fully healed up. And they might even last forever. Who knows? I'm not sure how long they last, but they last for quite a while. Kind of like Nidalee's or Caitlyn's traps. They could be pretty annoying, I guess, for the opponents, which is why they might want to step on them. So if you're, like a lot of people would imagine, you might want to put them near your tower if you want to start stalking them up, I guess, because otherwise the opponent might find it too easy to step on them and destroy them. Another tactic, though, I could imagine you could do is you could just like put them in the bush or something when then you know the opponent has a ward there, so they see it, so they walk into the bush, and then you can attack them, which would combo well with Arbiter's first ability that he can learn. So what's his first ability that he can learn? It's a lot like Wind Ranger's power shot from, Shackle Shot from Dota 2. Now, Shackle Shot stuns up to 2 enemy heroes. So, and that's how it works in League of Legends as well. Although, this version, instead of doing a mini stun, you only hit the one guy, it will do slow instead for a pretty good length of time actually. And it's a pretty good slow as well. So in that regard, it's kind of nice. Of course, it might not stop, Katarina's ultimate, because you don't have that 0.75 second stun that Shackle Shot has. Bard's ability is still nice because it's better for like chasing people, or maybe making it harder for them to chase you, so easier for you guys to run away. So that's nice, and I think that's a good sort of balance. I think you should have to be rewarded to get the stun. I'm rewarded by your aiming and stuff. Now, since there are no trees in League of Legends, instead of you needing a tree behind the unit, it's a wall instead. And I think the angle is a lot more easier to use than, because it's not just an assortment of trees, making up a wall. It's like a whole wall, so you don't have to worry about, the tree's not in the exact spot it needs to be to latch onto them. That's not how it works. You just, bam, the wall's behind you, they get stunned. It's really not that complicated. And I actually feel like the Wind Ranger's Shackle Shot is too complicated for as far as the latching to trees go. I really feel like Ice Frog really dropped the ball on the coding for that ability, and it's kind of funny that he still hasn't fixed it yet. But and he's tried tweaking it since then, but he's just not fixing the what am I trying to say, the larger problem, I guess. But that's not necessarily a problem with Dota 2 as far as the design of a game, or even the Warcraft 3 Dota. It's more of just a minor coding lack of innovation, a lack of coding innovation, I'm trying to say. That they could do something like that too, like a wall of trees, bam, or whatever. And of course, that's all of the abilities that Arbiter can learn. As for his basic ability, this is the fun one, that everybody's like, that Riot in particular is saying is why he's going to be a roaming support. And I think this is good that Riot is promoting him as a roaming support, because I think supports in general should be able to roam. They should be able to leave their ADC to solo, and their marksman. So the marksman, he should be able to hold his own against one or two champions, so the support can roam around the map. Like, in regular games, the marksman, like, as soon as you leave him, bam, he's dead. Like, practically instantly. Like, he can't hold his own at all because he's too much of a noob, right? But Riot is trying to raise the standards of play for marksman by introducing Bard, and by really pushing for him as a roaming champion, and heavily implying that other champions should roam as well. But okay, so why does Bard's ability, why does Riot reason that the community will buy into this? What's so special about the basic ability? Globally, as far as I'm aware, there are periodically placed these little actually no, these little thingies look more like wards than the thingies that he plants down on the ground. Come to think of it, those mushrooms, those lamps or whatever, those are bigger, I want to say, than these thingies. Anyway, these thingies are a bit smaller, and they're more about the size of a ward. I guess they're both about the same shape, whatever. So these things are smaller, and they're just planted globally, and there's something that actually is visually different to his opponents, and possibly even his allies. These little thingies only Bard collects, or Arbiter, only he collects them, and when he does that, it gives him boost to his stats, kind of like Thresh in his soul collecting adventures. Only with this guy, this stuff doesn't have anything to do with minions or champions being slain or anything like that. It just happens over time. So he's able to travel across the map to grab these power-ups, basically. And how they work, I'm not too sure about the bonus stats, but I know one thing that they're doing is they're giving him like a Lulu type a basic attack boost, which means like they're like these little wisps that help you fight, which is pretty cool. And of course that I suppose contrary to Lulu's basic ability, it doesn't scale on ability power, but even still it's pretty nice. And his one ability that's like Shackle Shot, I'm pretty sure the damage on it does scale with ability power, so that's nice. And that's another thing that sets it apart from Wind Ranger's Shackle Shot, is that that ability didn't deal any damage, I believe. So I think he's probably going to be a really fun champion. He's got tons of utility, and that's the main thing about him. And there isn't much else to say about him other than that. So those are the champions I'm going over for episode 18. Hope you enjoyed watching this episode. Unfortunately, there wasn't much I could show you as far as Bard or Arbiter is concerned, but yeah, probably next time we'll go over 2 or 3 other champions that are next week's free to play. I'm not sure which ones they are right now. Olaf might be one of them. Yeah. Anyway, I will have some more things to learn tomorrow. So I'll see you guys in a couple of days or so when I do another video. See you around.